to you by the U.Fund College Investing Plan and MEFA. Our Tropical Forest building is still closed, but today we are virtually going to visit our DeBraz's monkey family. So they have some food and some enrichment and some browse out this morning. So Dan will bring you close in to get a good look at what they're up to. So we have our two younger ones here. We have Bomani and Johari exploring some food. And then we also have mom and baby towards the back. And dad is in here somewhere. He's pretty easy to tell apart because he's the biggest of all of the monkeys. And you can see all the way in the back, baby is kind of starting to venture out on its own, which is pretty exciting. So that baby was born October 27th, 2020, so just a couple months old. And they'll be fully weaned when they're about a year old. So Bomani and Johari, they're about a year and a half and 2.5 years. So they're fully weaned, but they're gonna stay kind of with this family group. So they have some browse in there with them this morning, which is these branches with the leaves that you see. So that is really important enrichment for them because they can pull the leaves off just like they would when they're foraging out in their habitat. And this browse actually grows on site here at Franklin Park. So we can just go out and cut it and bring it in for these animals, nice and fresh. And throughout the winter we can freeze browse as well. So that means that they get fresh browse all year round. And we have one of our siblings, now they're chasing each other, but was just tearing at a paper bag in the exhibit, which has some food items in there for them. So sometimes the keepers will cut the food up really finely and spread it throughout the exhibit, so it's kind of like a forage. But this morning, the keepers put bigger pieces in these bags, so they still have to work for it, but it's kind of like a big reward when they get that bigger piece of food. And up front we have one of our siblings investigating a box full of mealworms. So that's part of their diet. It's mostly leaves and vegetables and fruits, but they do get some insects as well, and some invertebrates. So they have some mealworms there, which just like the browse that grows on site, we have a little bug farm on site right here in the tropical forest where we can breed mealworms and superworms so that our animals have access to that fresh food. And now they're trying to share. We'll see how it goes. So DeBraz's monkeys, they have that pretty distinctive, kind of looks like a white beard almost, and they have that bright orange on their foreheads too. So they have some pretty distinctive colors on them, but they're really good at camouflage. So that's their main defense against predators, is they'll stay really, really, really still to make it hard for a predator to see them moving, to see where they are. So they usually live in family groups. So the kids and the moms, they will stay really still while the male makes an alarm call and might even try to fight back against whatever predator is in their way. You may notice that they have very, very long tails, and those tails help them balance and help them move between the trees because they spend a lot of their time up in trees and moving between branches. But it's not what we call a prehensile tail, so it can't really do too much grasping and holding on and supporting their body. But it does quite a bit to help them balance so they can move around very easily. DeBraz's monkeys, they live in Africa, kind of in that Congo River Basin area. So they're what we call old world monkeys. So monkeys that live in Africa and Asia. And then there are New World monkeys that live in Central America and South America. And just like our gorillas, these monkeys are affected by mining for coltan. So coltan, you may have heard us talk about it a lot here at the zoo. It's a mineral that's used to make electronics. And it helps batteries last a lot longer in things like cell phones and computers, which is great for us humans, but not so great for any animal that lives in the habitat where you might mine coltan from. So when we have to make new electronics, we have to go into their habitat and mine for it, which means less habitat for the animals that live there. So for our western lowland gorillas that we have here at the zoo, it's led to them becoming critically endangered, which means there are not a lot left. They've lost a lot of that population. But for our DeBrazos monkeys, they're classified as least concern, which means they're not really endangered, they're not really threatened, but just because they're least concern doesn't mean that we don't still want to look out for their conservation. So we do some work here at the zoo to try and protect their habitat by recycling electronics. So if you have any electronics at home that you don't use anymore, you can bring them into the zoo and they can recycle that coltan so that we don't have to go into their habitat and mine for more of it.
So if anyone has any questions at any time, feel free to put those in the chat, and Nora can answer those.
Another thing that we do for DeBrazos monkey conservation is their species survival program. You may have heard that term quite a bit here at the zoo. It's basically their breeding program to make sure that we have a healthy population in human care. So a lot of AZA, Association of Zoos and Aquariums, a lot of AZA accredited facilities will have species survival programs and will participate in those programs. So we'll match males and females together and have some offspring. So we've been very successful with this DeBrazos family. We've had these 3 babies born in the last couple of years. It's pretty exciting. And our youngest baby, who I mentioned was born back in October, does not yet have a name, but stay tuned on Thursday for a special naming opportunity. So we've had a couple naming opportunities for some of our animals here in the tropical forest. We've had quite a baby boom, and then we have another one coming up later this week. So it looks like everyone is enjoying some breakfast this morning. As I mentioned, there's some browse, there's some other vegetables in there, lots of leaves and lettuce, and there is some grain scattered throughout the straw as well. So if you see them digging through the straw, they're probably just digging for some grain or some food that's in there. So one really cool adaptation that DeBrazos monkeys and all primates have is that opposable thumb. So you can see them using it whenever they're climbing around, whenever they're grabbing onto their food. And we have it too. We have our opposable thumbs that help us hold onto things. If you are watching on a phone, you might be using your thumbs to hold that phone. And they are really, really helpful to be able to move around really well in the trees, like you see some of our DeBrazos monkeys doing this morning.
So we have a question in the chat. Ashley asked if these monkeys are endangered.
That's a very good question, Ashley. So these monkeys, they're classified as least concern. So they're pretty widespread where they live. So they're not endangered at all, but we still do some work here just to make sure that we have this safe population in human care and that we're protecting their habitat so they don't become endangered.
So Nora, could you tell us a little bit more about the type of enrichment these monkeys might be getting?
Yeah, so this morning they're getting a lot of food enrichment. So they might be ripping open bags to get the food out of there. They are foraging through the straw. And they're also getting some browse, which is enriching because it kind of mimics those natural behaviors. And then they also might be getting some new food. So they're getting a few mealworms today, which might be a special treat for them. So that all is food enrichment. And then they are also getting the enrichment of us standing outside of their exhibit. So they can watch us move around just like we watch them. They can take a look at what we're doing. So anytime you come and visit the zoo, you get to act as enrichment for our animals because they can watch you walk around. It's pretty cool.
And Caitlin had a comment in saying that they're really good climbers. So is it
very good climbers. So they have that opposable thumb not only on their hands but also on their back feet as well. So they are double good at climbing. So they can use those back feet just like we might use our hands to grab onto things, which makes them really good climbers, and they have that tail for balance too, so they're very well adapted to it. You can kind of see, well, of course they stopped now, but one of the DeBrazos monkey was holding onto some browse with its back foot, which to us might look kind of silly, because I don't know about you, but I'm not great at holding onto things with my toes. These monkeys are very good at it. So it looks like maybe we had some zucchini this morning. So here at the zoo they eat lots of leafy greens, some grains, and some vegetables like zucchini and squash, and maybe something sweet too, like apples or grapes. Might be a nice treat for them.
Rabia has asked if where these species are originally from.
So they are native to Central Africa, so kind of around that Congo River basin. So they live really close to rivers. They usually don't stray too far from any source of water. And they like to live up in the trees there as well. So some monkeys, like baboons, will kind of move around on the ground. But DeBrazos monkeys prefer to live in trees by the water. So this is Dad up front. So he is a lot bigger than the rest of them. So male DeBrazos monkeys tend to be a lot bigger than the females, which makes them pretty easy to tell apart. For some species, it's not quite so easy. The males and females might look exactly the same.
And if someone was interested in donating any enrichment to the zoo, where would they be able to do that?
So if you visit our website, and we have an enrichment page that will tell you all about enrichment, and it will bring you to a wish list for enrichment items. So if you want to donate, if you want to help us give enrichment to these animals, you can check out that page on our website. You also can find information about all of our animals on the website, which is pretty cool. So if you're ever looking for something to do, you can go and poke around zoonewengland.org. It looks like Johari, our older sister, is munching away on the cardboard box. So their keeper put some mealworms in that box so that they could explore and eat them, but of course they just flipped over the box and now they get to forage for those mealworms instead.
Well, if anyone has any last questions, me and Nora are going to start heading out.
So let them enjoy their breakfast. But thank you for joining us in our tropical forest this morning. And we look forward to welcoming you back to the